Hello and welcome to Qtr Time podcast in partnership with Lovell Netball. I'm Lucy G.
And I'm Lucy P. And we're here to bring you all the netball goodness you never knew you needed. As listeners of the pod will know, we are passionate about netball and women's sport. So it's really disappointing to hear that 3 in 5 girls skip sport on their period due to fear of leaking.
However, our friends at Modibody have teamed up with Puma to launch their brand new super absorbent leak-proof 2-in-1 active shorts. The shorts hold up to 2 to 3 tampons worth of blood, meaning that you can wear them to stay active at any time of the month. And the added bonus is that they are super flattering and make you look like a total athlete. They even make me look like an athlete, which is saying something.
As sponsors of the podcast, Modibody are delighted to offer our listeners an exclusive 15% discount at modibody.com if you use the code QTR Modibody. You can find all the T's and C's and the code in our podcast notes, so go check it out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of our Netball World Cup 2023 coverage. So, Luce, just a few days to go now until it all kicks off. If you missed our content schedule for the World Cup, it is pinned to our social media pages, so do go and check it out. We've got recorded podcasts being released. We've got live podcasts on Twitter. We've got exclusive behind-the-scenes social media content. Everything's coming your way over the next 2 weeks. We are too excited and we'll be out in Cape Town for the duration of the competition, which we are just so unbelievably pumped about. So, Luce, back to today's show. What have we got coming up?
Oh, what haven't we got coming up is the question. We are going to be previewing each of the 16 Netball World Cup teams with a particular focus on the top 5 nations. And to help us with this, we've enlisted the Sky Sports commentator and former England Rose's captain, Pamela Cookey. We'll be highlighting key talking points, players to watch, and our predictions for final placings, which is a really interesting discussion. But before that, we're going to cover everything that you need to know and bring you up to date with all the action before we kick off on Friday.
Amazing. And Pam, of course, out there with Sky Sports for the duration as well. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff coming your way from them. So make sure you check out the Sky Netball social medias to follow along with how they're getting on. And so just to bring everyone up to speed before we get into analysing our teams with Pam, Luce, can you give us a reminder of the 4 pools and the tournament format?
That I can. So in Pool A, we've got Australia, Tonga, Zimbabwe and Fiji. In Pool B, we've got England, Malawi, Scotland and Barbados. Pool C has Jamaica, South Africa, Wales and Sri Lanka. And Pool D is New Zealand, Uganda, Trinidad and Tobago and Singapore. In terms of the tournament format, on days 1, 2 and 3, all the teams play the other teams in their pool. And then on days 4, 5, 6 and 7, the top 3 teams from pools A and B merge to form like an Uber pool, which is called Pool F, and they all play each other. Pools C and D merge to form their Uber pool called Pool G, and the bottom Uber pool, I love that. And the bottom team from A, B, C and D merge to form Pool E. Everyone in their new pools plays the teams from the other original pool, and then we have playoffs and place-ins on days 8, 9 and 10. So clear as mud, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Got it. But for anyone who's been hiding under a rock or has just come back from a digital detox, for example, can you just give a quick reminder to our UK listeners about where they can watch the World Cup?
Yeah, so all matches are being shown on Sky with 1 game per round on Sky's YouTube channel. But also all games from day 4 onwards will be on the BBC, which is absolutely fab. We love to see it. Everything will also be going on Netball Pass, so you can watch that back at your leisure, and we'll put a link in the show notes for you.
Great stuff. It's really, really important to get as many eyeballs on the World Cup this year as possible. So tell all your colleagues, your family friends, your hairdresser, your personal trainer, the person sitting next to you on the bus that they can watch and follow along to see 16 teams of incredible athletes take to court.
Could you imagine that? Just actually sitting on the bus of the train and be like, excuse me, did you know?
That's fully something I would do. I've been telling everyone. I went to get our travel money from John Lewis and the lady was like, oh, are you going anywhere nice? You know, as they do. And I said, oh yeah, I'm going to South Africa for the Netball World Cup. Do you know what she said? What? Are you playing? And I did have to say to her, at 5'4" and lacking all the kind of necessary athletic attributes, no, I am not playing. But thank you. And you can watch along. So
oh, that is too cute. No, I'm the same. I announced it to my entire badminton group as well. I was like, FYI, if you fancy a break from batters.
We should have got sandwich boards printed, Lou, so then we could have just gone round like advertising it, to anyone in the shopping centres or at the airport, all that stuff.
Living your best mascot life. I love it. But genuinely though, like the more people that know, the better, the more eyeballs, the better. But you can also get yourself some merchandise, like arrange a watch party with some pals, like get your team together, go down to the local pub, like, get them to put the netty on the TV. There's literally no better time to get immersed in the world of netball. So yeah, I encourage everyone to do all they can to spread the good word of netball far and wide. And actually, if you're based in the Chiswick area, very niche now, but if you are listening in Chiswick, the Pilot Pub on Wellesley Road has rebranded itself as a women's sport pub. So if you're a local, pop in there, get them to put the netty on. They are putting the FIFA Women's World Cup on at the moment, but I'm sure they put some netty on as well. So get yourself down there.
Yeah, and I'm sure that other places have done that as well. Maybe like Belushi's and stuff. They can put the sports on in different places around London. And there's also that bar called the Sports Bra. I think it might be in New York though. Don't know if we've got any listeners in New York, but if you are, or you happen to be in New York for the duration, but definitely just go down and ask people. That the worst they can do is say no. And there's no such thing as too much netball in our view. So coming up after this short break, we'll be bringing you our Netball World Cup 2023 preview with Pamela Cookey. It is a huge honour to welcome Pamela Cookey onto the podcast. How are you doing, Pam?
I am very well, thank you. Great to be back on with you two lovely ladies.
I know you're a regular guest on the pod and we really appreciate your time and expertise coming on. We know you're building up to a huge couple of weeks in Cape Town working with Sky on their coverage. So pretty amazing. How are you doing in terms of your preparations? I bet you're up to your eyeballs in research and packing and all that sort of stuff right now.
Oh, definitely. It's come around so quickly. I'm a planner, so I like to have like things in place ready beforehand and scheduled and know where I'm at. So yeah, no, lots of research, lots of talking to different people, looking back at previous competitions and whatnot, and just kind of getting my head back into the kind of netball commentary and punditry and reporting world. So I'm super excited. I can't believe it's next week, Friday.
I know.
So close.
It's amazing. It's just come around so quickly, hasn't it? And there's so much to absorb, so much information out there being put out by teams and stuff, which is great and really creating a really good buzz around the World Cup. So it's absolutely fab. And as you know, today we're previewing all 16 teams in this episode, starting with the lowest ranked nations and working our way up. We're going to give a brief look at the bottom 11 teams, but we'll take a bit of a closer look at the top 5. But if any listeners are interested in looking at the team lists in detail, we're going to link to some brilliant preview articles by Netball Scoop in the show notes. It's a great bit of light reading for you as you get ready for the World Cup to kick off on Friday. So first up, Pam, we're going to take a look at Singapore, who are ranked 28th in the world. And as the lowest ranked team in the competition, the pressure is kind of off for Singapore and they can really just go out there and make the most of the event. They were defeated by Sri Lanka by 10 goals in the Asian qualifier final and were 16th in the World Cup in 2019. So they'll really just be looking for their players to gain experience and exposure against top sides so they can continue to build. What can teams like Singapore gain from the experience of playing in a World Cup, even if they may not win many games, if any?
Yeah, it's like you say, they're going there with nothing to lose and no expectations really, apart from you've got to go out there, you've got to learn from that experience. Being in the World Cup environment is something special, and it's such an honour to have been selected for any national side to be the best in your country. So regardless, they're already up there in terms of those 12 that have been selected. So for them, it will be go there, enjoy it, but learn all those different tricks of the trades from the different countries, the different styles of play, and then feel it as well, because being on the court against those kind of opposition is very different to watching them on TV. So they get that little bit of added that others that aren't at the World Cup don't have ready for the future.
Yeah, and obviously getting that kind of competition is always a bit of a struggle for some of the Asian teams, and they'll learn so much, like you say. I often find that if you're playing against a team that's much better than you, it can really make you rise to that level as well. So that'll be a really important learning experience for Singapore, and we know there's a few players on there to watch as well. And next up, looking at Fiji, who are 19th in the world. They're heading for their 10th World Cup appearance and came in 4th at the recent Pacific Oz Series, and that was behind Tonga, Malawi, and Zambia. And Fiji have several players who have experience playing in the Netball Super League, the ANZ, and the SSN, including Kalira Nawai Thauthau and Dee Bolokoro. So what can we expect from Fiji in the competition?
Well, you can always expect Fiji to come out with, like, they have the passion, they have like the brute strength. They're going to really challenge and go for it. They're not looking to take any game lightly. And every time we watch them, you see something a little bit different that they've learned or picked up or added to their style of play. So in terms of ranking wise, you're probably not going to see them too high up there. But what I do think is they'll give some teams a good competition and make them have to really think about what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm really quite excited actually to see how probably the more familiar names to us, how they come out and make the most of the experience. It'd be really nice to sort of see them on the world stage as well, matching up against the best. And following Fiji, of course, is Sri Lanka, who are ranked 15th. And they qualified in first place in the Asian World Cup qualifiers. And their coach has said that they're targeting a finish between 12th and 14th this year. So, Pam, how do you fancy their chances of achieving the top end of that target, given that Barbados are bolstered by the likes of the Corbin sisters and Zimbabwe finishing a cracking 8th position at 2019 World Cup? How do you fancy their chances?
Well, Sivalingham, the highest goal scorer from the 2019 World Cup, is back in the mix. It was touch and go at times. I was reading that whether she was actually going to be selected for the squad, but she is in. All 6 foot, what is it, 10 of her or something?
Yeah, 2.06 meters.
Ridiculous. So they've got that target in there, and we know she's accurate under the post, but what they'll need to have moved on from 2019 was the feeding into her. How are they able to get that ball to her so that she can get those shots up? So I think, again, it would be a little bit of more of a struggle for them to climb higher based on those countries that you've just named. But it will be interesting to see, again, how they've progressed over the past 4 years, which is what we love at a World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And that feeding thing is absolutely key. And, you know, the likes of a Janelle Fowler, although she's not quite that tall, you know, she is really able to make something out of nothing when it comes to feeds. But I don't know if Sivalingham is quite as mobile, quite as able to do that. So, yeah, the service to her is absolutely crucial. And following Sri Lanka is Barbados, who are ranked 14th. Now, they're probably the team with the most new faces who took part from the 2022 Commonwealth Games. Only 5 of the athletes selected for this side actually played in Com Games. However, Barbados have employed the services of 2 Super League legends in the Corbin sisters. So how do you think Coach Denise Allen will look to make the most of their experienced elite players whilst balancing the fact that their combinations with the existing gems will still be really, really fresh?
Yeah, I think with Barbados, they had such a lot of youngsters in that Commonwealth Games squad. And so by adding Kadeen and Sasha in there, you get that experience immediately. What I'm really looking forward to seeing is how they can blend in with those other players, how they can lift them up, and because they've got the flair. We've always seen that, and we know over the years they've started to kind of cement that into more consistency. They've been wanting to play back together again for a couple of seasons now, so it'll be good to see the Corbin connection. But the only way that will work is they can sometimes rein in what they think they need to be doing, what they want to be doing, but it might not necessarily be at the level yet of their teammates. So how can they kind of find that good equilibrium that they can be smooth throughout the court?
And actually, it was interesting when I was looking into this, because neither of the Corbin sisters have actually been to a World Cup before, even though they've represented the Roses. I think obviously Kadeen was part of the Commonwealth Games winning squad, but it feels like a really nice thing for them to be able to do that together. Obviously, we know Sasha's retiring from the Super League, so it'll be a special moment for them. I just wonder how the coach is going to balance those other younger Barbados players who maybe have been thinking this is their time to get their opportunity and potentially might be disappointed at a lack of court time. Do you think that could be an issue?
It's like you said, it's how the coach has balanced it. What conversations have been happening posts coming into camp and whatnot, so that everyone knows what their role is, because that is so key. Because you can't have players thinking, well, I've been told I should be playing, but then I'm sat on the bench, or I've been told I'm going to be a support player, but then something different. So you need everyone in your squad to be really clear on what their role is, so that when you come into the competition, you just go out and deliver on that. And if coach has done that well, then those youngsters will be kind of in awe of Sasha and Kadeen and looking to really learn from them. And then when they do get those opportunities to step on the court, they can then show why they should be the future.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think it's going to be really interesting, and very excited to see those players and what they can bring to the Barbados side as well. Next up, it is Zimbabwe, who are 13th in the world and made their World Cup debut in 2019, taking the competition by storm, finishing in 8th place and beating Northern Ireland. And now everyone knows how much excitement the Zimbabwe fans brought in Liverpool. But which of the players on court do you think we should be keeping an eye on?
Well, Sharon Bwanali, I thought, was really great in the qualifiers. Goal shooter, goal attack. She really kind of spearheads their attacking end. And then obviously you've got Felicitas Kwanga, Surrey Storm faithful, and our Super League fans will know her really well as captain, to kind of bring that kind of overseas experience and all the lessons that she's heard. And so I think those two players are ones that we should watch out. But then, like you said, they bring so much joy, so much energy. And as a squad, I think they could potentially cause an upset.
Yeah, and even their social media in the lead up has been really exciting. Lots of videos of them dancing, getting involved and excited, and they've got a really good fan base, as you say. So I think definitely something about them being in Africa, you know, having the first World Cup in Africa. I think Zimbabwe are going to be fired up, and I think they're going to be tough to beat on their day.
Totally agree with you. Yeah.
So next up, we have Trinidad and Tobago, 11th in the world, and they really struggled at Commonwealth Games last year, only winning one game, which was their playoff game against Barbados. So in which area of the court do you feel that Trinidad and Tobago need to improve if they want to get more wins on the board this year?
For me, it's their shooting end and how they bring it through, obviously, into the circle to be able to score the goal. Defensively, I think they turned over some amazing ball. Obviously, you've got Shaquanda Green-Noel in that back space. You've got some really key, strong unit players that have been able to turn over ball, but where they had struggled is that accuracy on the post, but then that service into the circle. So we're looking at an Afisha Noel in there to kind of really lead that attacking end. Daystar Swift is now co-captain with Shaquanda Green-Noel. Heard of her on the international stage back when I was playing, so now she's properly back into the squad, and to bring again that experience and those talents in will be really key for them to keep turning those balls over so that shooters have more opportunities.
Yeah, I'm really keen to see them, because they absolutely did struggle without Sam Wallace and also without Khalifa McCollin. There's a bit of sort of controversy around her non-selection, but I'm really keen to see Jamila McCarthy back in the squad, because we saw a little glimpse of her. Was it Mavericks that she was with from memory? And then obviously was ruled out on medical grounds for the rest of the season. So I don't think we saw the best of her. So I'm really keen to see sort of how she matches up with Shaquanda, who everyone knows and loves, absolute fan favourite. So yeah, definitely keep my eye on TNT when we get to South Africa. And next up then is Scotland, who are currently ranked 10th. Under Tamsin Greenway's leadership, Scotland really have formed a strong group, many of whom have the luxury of playing together regularly for Sirens domestically. And they've had some really interesting and close battles with Wales recently, including the World Cup qualifiers and a recent warm-up match. But they just can't seem to quite get one up on Wales. It's almost like they're a little bit of a bogey team for Scotland. So what would you like to see from Scotland in terms of the way that they play technically and tactically at this year's competition?
Yeah, I think they've really taken a step forward under T and Sarah as assistant coach. The Wales game was interesting because it was so close, but Tamsin played her whole bench, whereas I think Wales only played 8 players, and it was still just 3 goals separating them. So potentially they could have got that one over the line. But what I'm seeing from Scotland is that they are now fitter, they're more robust, and they are now starting to be able to take on board all the tactical stuff that Tamsin is trying to give to them. And so I want to see them implement that now at the World Cup. And then when they are in these stages where it is really tight goals and they've got the opportunity just to take that next step forward, they actually do grab it and they don't get scared and revert back to, well, Scotland, we haven't done it in the past, so we're not going to be able to do it again.
Yeah, 100%. And I think for Scotland as well, like they're starting to develop their own kind of superstars in their own right. You know, England's got the likes of a Halsby, a Cardwell, but for Scotland, you know, Iona Christian's really coming into her own. Hannah Layton, like she is absolutely becoming a superstar. I think a potential risk for them is quite often the shooting accuracy with Bethan Goodwin and Niamh McCall. And Tamsin does often say, you know, they're a very young circle and they're not super young, but they're definitely not old by any stretch of the imagination. But do you think that could be a potential risk area for them on the accuracy on the shot?
Oh, I totally agree with you. And we saw that in Super League. There are times when you just think flying, but then pressure situations, you just think, where was that shot going? Because it was nowhere near the post. And so I think for them, their confidence and consistency hopefully has been worked on, because that is so key for them, because they do all that work in defence and centre court, bringing that ball, winning ball first, then bringing it through the court, to then have it go off the back line or get off on the rebound because it hasn't gone through. It can be quite demoralising.
Yeah, definitely. They're 100% ones to watch for me, because like you say, they have grown massively under Tamsin, but let's see how they can perform. And following Scotland is Wales, who are ranked just above them in 9th, and they were undefeated in first place at the European World Cup qualifiers, which we were very privileged to attend. But for me, like, they are arguably in the pool of death. They have the worst pool out of everyone. They face South Africa on day 1, Jamaica on day 2, before coming up against Sri Lanka on day 3, and then potentially facing New Zealand in the crossover on day 4, before they then get a well-deserved day off. Like, that is horrendous. So with these tough matches at the start of the competition, how do you think Emily Handyside will balance the sort of player load in to try and achieve a top 8 finish for Wales?
Yeah, it's going to be so key for them. Like you say, that is tough. No one wants to be in that position. But that's World Cup for you. What I think Emily will need to do is their target is that top 8. And so there's some games you're not going to come out victorious. You're not going to get those 3 points from. So how can you rotate the squad so that players still get exposure and experience and keep match fit and game ready towards that latter half of it? So it's almost quite good, those tough games are at the start, so you can try things out, you can mix up how you think your different styles are going to work about other opposition, and then come that second round, she can then start to build with the squads that she thinks is going to be able to get them into those top finishes that she's after.
Yeah, because like they really are tough games, but physically on the body, like having to do those back to back against those caliber of teams is nuts. But I also think for Wales, like they've had a fair bit of change actually since the qualifiers. Like Susie Drain retired, Sarah Moore stepped down, obviously Emily Handyside was brought in. They've also got a new assistant coach in Raina Bloxham. So there's quite a lot of change there. How difficult is it to kind of marry all of those different things together whilst trying to maintain your sort of World Cup preparation at the front of your head? Yeah,
it is difficult. And I know, like, Emily's been there in a technical role from, I think, January. So she's kind of had a little bit of time in amongst the squad to kind of start to get how their culture works and how their structures work. I know they've been training for the past few weeks, every weekend up until when they flew a day ago or 2 days ago. So in terms of their S&C stuff, everyone's kind of congregating in Cardiff to be able to do that together as well. And then you've got your on-court, your match plays, and you're able to then develop those technical and tactical sides of things. So change is difficult, but sometimes that can make you stronger. And I think, speaking to some of those girls, they kind of embrace that as, we're in this position, let's all now bond together, let's all build together and get strength together to be able to push on forward. And I think that's what Wales has kind of done quite well, what I'm hearing from the camp.
Just one thing to note on Wales before we move on is obviously Georgia Rowe was injured for quite a lot of the 2023 season, so hopefully she can get through the competition without any injuries, because she's obviously such a strong pillar for them in that shooting end. And Bethan Dyke in the middle, they've got some really strong players. It's just bringing them all together, and I think they'll face some tough competition against some of the other nations. Next up then, looking at Uganda, who are 8th in the world, and after after an incredible 5th place finish at the Commonwealth Games last year, Uganda have been struck down by some really unfortunate injuries and absences of key players ahead of the World Cup. So they'll be without captain Praskovia Peace and Quatra. Stella Oyella, of course, that ACL injury at Sirens, very disappointing for her. Joan Nampungi and Jessica Atchan also not featured, and only 2 of their players from the 2019 World Cup squad are actually going to be playing this time around. They were also fined £5,000 for failing to field a team for the Africa Netball Championships due to lack of funding. So what are your thoughts on how all these issues together will impact the team ahead of World Cup?
Now, that is a situation where there's so much going on off the court that for sure that has an impact on court. And then when you lose those key players that you've just mentioned, that's massive to a team. We saw them over in England. Was it October time when they came for the Test series with a skeleton team? So they didn't play the African champs. So they've not really started to be able to build connections from these new youngsters coming through. And even when you've got a Mary Chollock in the back who's phenomenal, netball's a team game. You can't win it with one person. And so it's going to be really interesting, but I think very difficult for them to be able to produce the same performances that we've seen in the past.
Yeah. Where do you think they'll end up in the final standings?
Oh, I don't know. People keep asking me about the whole thing. And I'm like, this World Cup is so wide open and so close. And that's what we love as fans and spectators. We want to see a tight game. We don't want to know who the winners are going to be or where the placings are going to be. So at the moment, I'm still on the fence. I want to see everyone play their first game, and then I'll be able to kind of give a little bit more thought into where the final placings would be.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we'll send you a quick message then after the after the end of day 3. We'll be like, all right, Pam, ready for you. But it's difficult as well, because obviously there's a lot of fantastic teams in the competition, and some that we don't really know a lot about. Like, for example, Tonga, who are our next team to talk about. They're 7th in the world suddenly, and they're a really exciting prospect for the competition. It's their first time in the main draw of a Netball World Cup, and they also have former Silver Fern Cat2 of IT and former Aussie Diamond Monia Gerard in the side, plus a string of impressive results in the lead up to the tournament. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you think that Tonga have the capability to unsettle a top 5 side?
Oh, big call. I think they've had such a massive rise, and the head coach has just pulled in all the amazing Tongan nationality athletes that they have across the world. It doesn't matter where they're from, they're in this squad. And then, like you mentioned, you've got Kat and you've got Monia in there to add that international experience, world competition experience, and just sheer netball genius to it. I think they could do some damage, and they could upset maybe 1 or 2 teams. In terms of getting to that top 5, again, I'm going to have to go back. I just want to see them in that environment against another team first to just see how they're clicking, because potentially you're looking at South Africa then, aren't you? Whether they'd be able to beat a South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, Tonga are the ones that I'm probably most excited about, because I didn't get to catch a lot of their qualifiers either. So I'll have to see if I can try and catch up on the plane, maybe download a couple of games. But yeah, they are absolutely the ones to watch for me. Next up then is Malawi, who are currently ranked in 6th. So they sit just outside the top 5 in terms of world rankings. They really do have some incredible strength throughout the court. They've got Kumwenda, Mvula, Luwazi, who is one of my absolute favourites, Vinkumbo as well. Malawi really will be tough to beat. However, they are without their captain, Caroline Mtukule, due to a knee injury. And Tonga did defeat Malawi in the Pacific Oz series, but Malawi did have a few key players missing, so can't read too much into it perhaps. But what do teams have to do to beat a side like Malawi?
Oh, Malawi are the Malawi queens, of keeping possession of ball. They will play it from one corner to the other, back to the keeper. They're so patient with it. But then when the time's right, they can strike really quickly. And so if you get stuck on the back foot of like going with their rhythm, then you kind of get forward when they change that pace. So I think teams need to really switch on. And you'll see maybe like the first quarter, the first half, where it's quite tight. But then the second half of the game is where those higher ranked teams start to pull away. But you need to make sure you turn that quick switch early enough, because otherwise they will stay with you. If they think they've got a sniff of that game, then they'll ride it to the very end. But if you can get a big enough gap early on, then that's how you beat them.
And I think as well, like, underestimate Malawi at your peril. Don't forget
definitely.
at the Commonwealth Games in 2018, they beat New Zealand. They have got the potential to really come out with some stonking performances. So yeah, really, really interesting and very exciting to watch them. So coming up after this short break, we'll continue our preview by taking a look at the top 5 nations. So, Luce, the Netball World Cup is here. And as you know, I simply could not be more excited.
Oh, mate, tell me about it. It's the biggest event of the netball calendar. And what better way to show your support for the Roses than by heading to lovellnetball.co.uk and picking yourself up some of the Roses fanwear?
Oh, of course. And I actually have this, okay, this is a bit embarrassing, but I have this weird superstition that when I watch England play, I have to be wearing some kind of kit, like a top or a hoodie or something. Otherwise, I convince myself that if they don't win, it was all my fault.
Oh my God, that is literally insane. But at least you and our listeners can get 15% off at lovellnetball.co.uk with the code NETPOD15 until the end of August.
Amazing. Happy shopping, guys. Okay, so now looking at South Africa, who are, of course, ranked 5th in the world, I feel like there's quite a lot of pressure on South Africa to perform at the World Cup, given their 6th place finish at the Com Games and the additional expectation of hosting their first World Cup. In fact, South Africa President Cecilia Molokwane has been extremely vocal about the necessity for the Proteas to perform and to get a medal. With some fresh talent in the side, 4 players are set to make their Netball World Cup debut, and the legendary Norma Plummer is, of course, back at the helm. So South Africa probably have their strongest chance of getting a medal at this year's World Cup. However, they'll most likely have to beat Jamaica or New Zealand to get to the semi-finals, as well as the teams ranked below them and not have any slip-ups. In your view, will the Proteas thrive or crumble under pressure?
Oh, wow, they've got Coach Plum. Well, that's awesome, isn't it? And you can already tell from the vibes in the squad that they're excited, they're raring to go, they've got a new lease of life. You've got Carla Pretorius back in, who has been smashing things since coming back from having her baby as if she never left. Lenise Potgieter has been firing on all cylinders in our Super League at goal shooter. And like you said, some of those youngsters coming through have got so much energy. It was a shame we didn't see Vanderberg at Leeds, and also Nicholas Smith. So it'll be interesting how their rehab has gone and how they've been playing back in competition back in South Africa. They're tough. South Africans, you've got big presence, you've got the Pumza Mwenis, you've got the Bongi Masomis. Like, they are no strangers to world competition and high level competition. So pull that all together, bring back Norma Plummer, and then you've got a cauldron in there on their home soil in Cape Town. They've got all to play for. And really another team that's, I know it might seem that they've got a lot of pressure on themselves because it's the home World Cup, but finishing 6th and having not medalled, it's almost like they can just go out and play rather than already be there and feel they have to stay up there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And I think as well, like you mentioned, some of those younger players coming through that we haven't necessarily seen too much of, that are a bit of kind of a new and exciting angle for South Africa to play. They obviously had that draw with England in the Quad Series. So, there's a lot of really exciting stuff that we've seen from them in recent times since that coaching change. And obviously a lot of excitement about the up and coming shooters, notably Talliard and Vanderberg. And Vanderberg, you mentioned we were meant to see in the Netball Super League, but she picked up that injury, which threw a bit of a spanner in the works. But as a shooter yourself, can you talk us through why those two are such exciting prospects for South Africa?
Yeah, well, Vanderberg, she's got the height as well as the agility, and that. So when I first saw her was against Wales when they came over for that competition, and what I saw was just a fearless youngster with some natural ability that is not afraid to just step on the court and go do the business. And I love the way that she'd take ball off the centre pass, but then still get herself into that circle to be an option, and then from anywhere in the circle turn and shoot. Taliad was at fast 5, and they came second, so really helped that squad to kind of reach that silver medal position in New Zealand. So they've got some youngsters who are talented and gaining more and more experience each time they step out there. You've got, but then also accurate on the shot. So as a shooter, so when I've played, if I've got that confidence, I know all my work has been done in the training and in practice matches. So when I step out on that court, I can just play and I can just have fun doing it, which is what they look like they're doing. That's when you're going to play your best netball.
Yeah, and I think as well, the likes of Inmarie Venter, Lenise Potgieter, they've been around for quite a long time. So actually seeing that next generation come through is really, really exciting. And I have to say as well, like, shout out to Lefebvre Rademan for coming back from her ACL and making the reserves. I was so gutted that she just missed out on the 12, but like her recovery has been absolutely sensational, and like her performances in the TNL League are outrageous. So yeah, props to her as well. And obviously she'll be able to partner with them, probably after this World Cup, as a shorter, more zippy goal attack. So much variety for South Africa.
And that's the other thing, Luce, is obviously them building that depth. There hasn't been that many times where you've had a sort of someone with overseas experience actually left out of a South Africa squad. And so going into the next cycle, if they can get more and more of their players playing overseas, as well as those ones who are playing back home in the TNL, then that's the really exciting signs for them moving forward.
Yeah, and I absolutely suspect that they will get more people playing international. There's loads of people calling for Taliad to go over to SSN already, but I'm kind of hoping we can steal her for NSL first. So next up then is Jamaica, who are currently ranked in 4th. Now, it's sort of on the reverse to South Africa, where there's, finishing badly at Com Games and then not having the pressure. Jamaica obviously did not finish badly at Com Games, and I would say pressure is sort of on them to perform again. They have almost the exact same group that won silver at Com Games, besides Crystal Plummer, who replaces the retired Shady Ann Hemmings. And they have the 2023 SSN Premiership winning defensive combo of Sterling and Wilson. Now, historically, it's arguably been Jamaica's midcourt that's probably been the weakest area for them. But is this still the case now? Where could it go wrong for Jamaica?
Yeah, so, well, you've got Nicole Dixon-Rochester. She's back in that centre position. So key for them. And when we saw her at the England series, like, she was injured, but she was still coming back on court, doing some damage and then going back off. So Connie Francis using her substitutions really well to ensure that, as we all know, that mid-court was where the issue was. The bookends, Fowler. And then you just mentioned the two, Ward, Shamira Sterling. But then you've also had Dehaney in there, who has been flying in SSN. So 4 of their players were on the SSN Team of the Year. So they've got individuals who are on such another level that are now starting to work so nicely together. And then that centre court with some of those youngsters coming in who are so fit, so fast, I think that connection now between the two ends is there. And after that silver medal at the Commonwealth Games, they have so much confidence. They are riding high and they want to make sure that they do one better this time round. So they are definitely a team to watch out for.
Yeah, and they've also managed to retain Rob Wright as well as the assistant coach, which is amazing, because I know that was a little bit up in the air after Com Games because he was doing it voluntarily. So I think that will just help to bolster them. But like the defensive end, I think we could probably all agree that Jamaica's defensive end is the scariest in the world, without a doubt. They've got Sterling, Dehaney, Wilson and Ward. And in this SSN season in particular, Latanya Wilson has been an absolute menace at wing defence. I think she's been the only wing defence, in my opinion, who has shut down every single wing attack in some way, shape or form throughout the season. So with Jodie Ann Ward and Latanya Wilson both able to really perform in the goal defence bib, who do you think will get the start in goal defence?
Oh,
because like the Wilson-Sterling combo is so good, but then Ward is so good at GD.
Exactly.
How do you think they'll stack up?
I'd go Wilson at goal D, because Ward is also, I think having Wilson, which gives that little bit of extra height in that circle, helps strengthen them. And then you've got Ward, who is deceptive, speedy. and can still, as a unit, they've managed to know what each other's superpowers are, so they complement each other. So I think that three would be their strongest.
Oh, see, it's really interesting because Luce and I were talking about this earlier. Luce is on the same
I'm with
wavelength
you,
as
Pam.
you.
Yeah,
I would start Ward and GD and have Wilson in wing D, because like she was the only wing D who could shut down Liz Watson pretty much throughout SSN.
Yeah.
So
but then it's who you play against different opposition, which is the key, because you wouldn't necessarily have them that combination every single game, would you? So I think you are right as well. Both of you are
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, Pam. Fence sitting there from you. But I think you might put your Ward out there in wing defence for certain games and then switch them around for other games. But I think what's clear is just the depth of talent that Jamaica have, you know, particularly in the defence, but also in all areas of the court. I mean, to be able to leave Shimona Nelson out of the squad, you know, is pretty wild, in my opinion. And I think there's definitely been an attitude shift for Jamaica, that they weren't happy with that silver. You know, they weren't satisfied to just get to the final. And so I think they could go all the way, if I'm honest. I don't know. It's really hard to say. But yeah, I wouldn't be placing any bets on Jamaica not making that final if I were a betting person.
But don't forget as well, you've also got the option of Dehaney, Sterling, like pushing everyone up.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it
so
is
many combinations. So many.
Yeah.
So I think for Jamaica, it'll be whether their goal attack and wing attack consistent enough throughout. And I think Aideen Thomas back in at the centre wing attack kind of thing. Shanice Beckford, if she's on fire and she's able to support Janelle very well in terms of that feeding role, but also if people do shut her down, because you can shut a fouler down if you play it properly, she needs to then be able to keep that scoreboard ticking over. So bookends are solid. Centre court is definitely stepped up in his next level, but how can they be consistent for longer? That will be what wins them the gold medal.
One final thing on Jamaica is obviously they're not, those mid-quarters aren't playing domestic level competition week in, week out at the elite level like in SSN. So is there a sense that in a World Cup format where the games get harder and harder as you go along, is that going to trip Jamaica up as you get towards the end of the competition when potentially fatigue might become a factor?
Yeah, definitely. But it's again, and it's for all teams, how do you best utilise your squad so that when the business does come, people are fresh? They've still got match legs in them in terms of they know what it's like. They've felt what it's like to be in the stadium in that environment with a South African crowd, very partisan. So they've got all of that out of their system and are still ready then to push on forward come the latter part. So coaches, as usual, play such a key role in how teams' results go.
Well, watch this space indeed. Now, next up then is England, who are currently ranked third in the world. And if I'm being completely honest, the harsh reality for England is that we're entering the competition in danger of our worst ever cycle in terms of performance. And there is a genuine risk of not medaling again, as we didn't in Commonwealth Games. That being said, there are a number of positives for England, with Cardwell and Housby particularly in the form of their lives at the moment. We've now got Fadoju in the mix for this major competition, and the Roses have also brought in the expertise and support of Serena Kirsten and Jo Harton as well. There's a lot of discourse about the setup at England at the moment, with Jess as head coach, Sonia as assistant coach, Liana as technical coach, Serena as leadership and culture coach, Jo as support coach, Layla and Nat as co-captains, Jade as vice-captain, and then Helen, Eleanor and Fran in a leadership group as well. So is this a sign of desperation and sort of throwing the kitchen sink to avoid not medaling? Or is it actually an investment in the group and making the most of the exceptional talent that's sort of in and around the programme?
We shall see. But no, but I think that they've also taken about 14 support staff with them. When you count all the support staff, it reaches about 14. So I believe it is a chance to, like I say, let's make use of all the talent that we do have. As you say, bringing in Serena, bringing in Jo. And they've got those connections with the players, having not long been out of the programme, and seeing whether having all of that now can take the team to that next level. But like you say, it sounds so complicated when you say it. Is it complicated to that group of players? And that's the key. Because if it's not, then they can work with it. But if it is, and you, like I talked about earlier, everybody knowing their role, everyone knowing their job, it's not just the players, it's the supports team around them as well. So that's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Pam. And I think two proverbs have sprung to mind. I love a proverb, me. And one is too many cooks spoil the broth. And the other one is many hands make light work. So it could go either way, I think, for England. It's tough to call before we see them. But I don't know if leadership was what we were missing at the Commonwealth Games. I think it was maybe something else, but yeah, I don't know. It's going to be really difficult to see. But also, you know, Fumi Fadoju in the side, you know, that's massive. You know,
we learnt that lesson.
would things have been different if she'd been there at the Commonwealth Games? Who knows? We don't have a crystal ball. We can't go back and see. But obviously, that is quite a big change in that defensive end, and you've obviously got the inclusion of Fran Williams as well. But looking at some of the other sides, obviously Grace Nweke has grown instrumentally in recent years for New Zealand, and we've really seen her start to get the better of Mentor on a number of occasions. I think it was quite interesting the first time she played against Mentor absolutely spanked her, and it was like she got schooled basically. And then a few test matches later, or I can't remember if it's the Commonwealth Games or something like that, she really came out on top. And I would probably argue that from a Rose's perspective, we don't have a clear successor for the goalkeeper bib in the squad out in South Africa. So who do you think will be the next GK if Mentor isn't firing?
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I think that goalkeeper position, like the out and out goalkeeper position, is one that we are struggling with. We currently lack height, and there's all jumps you can have. You can jump for miles and whatnot, but I feel it's that presence in the back that kind of makes a big difference to a shooter. Knowing you've got that wall in front of you that you've got to come up against. So if it's not Jiva on that court, you're then looking to see. I in Australia, when Fran and Fumi work together, I really quite like that combination happening. And it's a tricky one.
I think Fumi is going to get put back in jail. I think she's going to get put. I think she's the second goalkeeper.
Which I she can play, and I think she's very, but I think she's wasted at goalkeeper. And so
agreed.
We will lose out by having to push her back.
Yeah, and actually I think it's going to be about that combination, because obviously what I really liked was Gusgoth out at wing defence as well, and having that back three of Gusgoth, Fadoju and Mentor. I think that's probably our strongest, but it's then what is kind of plan B in that sense. And I think historically for England, what has really set us apart is the strength of those connections. And I don't know if we've necessarily got that this time around. And in the shooting end, obviously Helen and Jo individually, outstanding world-class players, but do they have the same connection as the likes of Conan and Wood, for example, or for New Zealand, you know, and Ekenasio and Nweke, you know, in that sense. So it's going to be really interesting to see for England. And I think we've got to obviously remain positive. We back the girls 100%, but it's going to be tough, I think, given the strength of the competition across the board.
See, I think it will be tough, but I do think on their day they could do it. But an interesting thing I just thought of, there's a Netball Scoop article, an interview with Jess Selby that came out recently. And in there, Jess alluded to the fact that Layla was, as you say, going to play a fair bit of wing defence, which makes me then think you've got Layla, you've got Imogen Allison, you've got Laura Malcolm, and you've got Jade Clark, who's probably either first or secondary position is wing. That's 4 wing defences in one squad, which I find kind of mind-blowing. Pam, I'm assuming you agree with me by your gestures.
I am a little bit puzzled, yes, in terms of why we have so many wing defences in that squad. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. But it's like you say, on our day, with those players in that squad, we could do some real damage. And I am keeping that belief and I am keeping that faith, though it is going to be so tricky. It's going to be really, really difficult. And you mentioned like Ellie and Helen, we've seen them storm SSN. We saw Ellie storm Super League before she left. But on an England, can they bring those performances into that red dress and do it collectively? That is what I'm hoping we're going to see at the World Cup.
Yeah, fingers crossed, obviously. Back the girls 100%. But it is going to be really difficult to know how it's going to go. And I mean, if you think back to the 2019 World Cup, both semi-finals decided by 2 goals. I mean, that's one error. You know, that's like
yes.
one person does a footwork in the last few minutes and that's game over. You know, it's really hard to say. And so I think it's going to be so exciting. It's not great for my blood pressure, I have to say, all this pressure. But looking then at New Zealand, so a lot of the talk around New Zealand has been around their long preparation time. So they will have had almost 8 weeks of preparation together by the start of the competition, as the ANZ competition finished back in early June, and their camp on the Sunshine Coast really replicates some of their prep ahead of the 2019 World Cup, and we all know how that went. So from their third place finish last year, they've got Berger, Watson and Decanasio back in the side and are significantly bolstered, in my view. However, New Zealand have never managed to win back-to-back World Cups, and they don't have any exposure to the key Aussie, English or Jamaican players in their domestic competition, with the exception of Laura Malcolm. So in your view, do you think the additional preparation will give New Zealand the edge over other nations?
It's definitely an edge. Yeah. Noeline Taurua has had them for more time. They've had the chance to build those connections. You also you had a Berger and Watson that were already flying in the ANZ, and that combination is like firepower. Like, look at that, and you're scared already. Then we talked earlier about Nweke at goal shooter. We first saw her in 2022, so not even 2 years has passed yet, and look at the change that has happened in her game plan. It's scary what she can do now under that post, and so much more confident in how she takes the ball, and that scoring percentages have now increased, and she's been exposed to the world now, so she doesn't have that fear. So I think having that time together, they brought in Laura Langman as well. What an awesome asset that has been. What a player she was to kind of, again, strengthen, give information, help them. They brought in other technical coaches. So Noeline Taurua didn't think, oh, I can do it all by myself. She's like, well, no, I'm going to go out and get the best in their particular field to come in and help this team. So they've had a lot of time to kind of make a plan, build those connections and enhance what they've already got. And those 4 players back in the squad, boom, they're going to be another team to kind of, watch out for sure.
Yeah, and for me, again, it's the versatility for them. Like, if you think about the wing defence position, you've got Kadaka who can play it, Berger, Heffernan, Maddie Gordon, like all 4 of those absolute fire players, and like the versatility they've got, the strength of them, it is actually scary. It's scary.
But I think as well, Luce, it's the difference that they all provide. So those 4 wing defences that you named all play completely different styles of wing defence. So it's not the same, I think, as England, where we've got kind of the same, like, a tagging wing defence to do this, and then we've got Layla, and you know, it's just a different setup. And I'm impressed by the spread of players that they've got as well, not only in the shooting end, like the differences that they can offer, but also in that mid-court, you don't know what they're going to put out there. Could it have been a mistake that Teriava wasn't selected? I don't know.
That's
what
my
do you
only
think?
one. Yeah, that's the only bit where I just think, was that a potential mistake? Because that connection with Nweke is like telepathic.
Yeah.
That is the thing, isn't it? And of course, like, as you've already alluded to, the other key consideration for New Zealand is Dame Knowles, and her technical acumen. She is just on another level. And I think if we reflect on Com Games last year, England beat New Zealand by 10 goals in the group stages, but then lost by 7 in the bronze medal match. And it just felt to me like Knowles really did her homework from the first match, completely done a number on us. And I don't know how else to phrase it. It just felt like we got out-coached. And in the same Netball Scoop article I mentioned earlier, Jess mentioned that England's strength is our tactical diversity, which I think is quite interesting. So how do you out-coach someone like Dame Knowles?
You have to make sure that your team's firing on all cylinders. So again, everyone knows what their role is. Everyone knows if plan A isn't working, we're already switching to plan B, not waiting until quarter time to be told or to be reminded. We've already done that, because against a coach like Noeline, against a team like New Zealand, they will just roll on top of you if you don't do it quick enough. So how do you outcoach Dame Noeline Taurua? You have to make sure that you've done enough preparation beforehand and your skill level is up where it needs to be, your teamwork, because you have to do it as a team. Like I said, netball is a team game. Not one person is going to win it for you. And you all have to be on that same page doing the same plan. And if things need to be tweaked, you can do that straight away. And if the players don't know, like literally don't know, the coach has to be ready to input one little bit of knowledge, not an essay, because players can't take that information at quarter time. Just one or two key words that's a reminder of what you did in training that you can then go out and deliver on and execute.
Interesting stuff there, yeah, about being precise and concise, I suppose, on the sidelines in the game and knowing when to make those kind of chess piece changes. And I think, you know, Stacey Marinkovic has proven her stripes as a fantastic coach in recent years. Obviously, Australia ranked world number 1, never failed to medal at a World Cup. Their worst finish is second place, which is hilarious. And the squad is largely similar to the gold medal winning team from 2022. And the Aussies have also won Constellation Cup and defeated New Zealand by 6 goals back in January to win the Quad Series. And the World Cup is the only outstanding trophy in the Diamonds cabinet, which I think is going to weigh heavily on them. The major differences between their squad from last year and this year is the inclusion of JLP in place of Kate Maloney and Sophie Garbin in place of Gretel Boetta, who's expecting her second baby. And in contrast to New Zealand, the Diamonds have had a much shorter lead-in time. And I actually heard on the Kiwi Netball show, Sue Gordian said that Stacey Marinkovic wanted more time, but she was basically outvoted and outruled by the powers that be at SSN. So that's quite an interesting fact to note. However, the established connections of people like Conan and Wood, your Ariang and Bruce, they're tried and tested. Looking at the shooting end for the Diamonds, with no Gretel Boetta, should Donnell Wallam have been selected as a point of difference or spark for the Aussies, particularly given Garbin's form in SSN this year?
Yes, is a short answer.
I agree.
Definitely. I think Gretel Boetta at the Commonwealth Games, I think she is the single-handedly pulled them through to that gold medal. I think now with the squad that they've picked, it is very samey. Sophie Garbin has been playing goal attack, but not to the standard that she would have wanted to play it. She's really a goal shooter. And the Magpies' results as well haven't gone the way that they'd wanted to. I think she's coming in with that baggage in her head as well. And then it is kind of a little bit samey. Whereas if you had Donnell Wallam in there, who I just think on her day, she is electric. She brings that point of difference. She brings that presence in the circle. She can shoot from anywhere. She's a lovely target for feeders to get to. And it just brings a little bit more excitement to an Aussie Diamond side, doesn't it?
And she can shoot long range. She's got all the tricks in her book as well. And I think they could have afforded to take a specialist goal shooter because the other players all provide that versatility as well across the court. So we will have to wait and see if Australia rue the day. I don't know. I think they're probably going to be fine. But it's so hard to know, isn't it? Because it's really so close between all those top teams. And it could just come down to an individual standing up or not standing up on a given day. And before we wrap up, of course, we couldn't not ask you your predictions for which teams will be walking away with gold, silver and bronze medals. So let us know, Pam, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I'm not going to give you a gold, silver and bronze. I think, and why I'm so excited about this World Cup is that it is going to be so close. It's going to come against which style matches up best against which opposition. It's going to come off which coach has the right tactics at the crucial time or the right information they can give to maybe even just one player at that time that would make a difference. It's going to be about which team can gel the most together, which team can be in South Africa in that environment, in those stadia where all that noise and that hype and stuff and take it all and use it as positive energy. Because when you're looking at those players across that, I think there's a definite top 4. At any point they could win it, I think. But it's going to come down to, in this particular competition, who's it going to click for? And that's what I want to see, I'm excited about. And I don't think fans need to kind of predict it now. I think let's enjoy the ride, see what comes of it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. What are your thoughts, Luce?
Well, I mean, I was just going to say to Pam, like when we were discussing this earlier, like we were arguing back and forth about what our top, bronze, silver, gold were, and Luce, you had Australia coming in third potentially, and I thought that was absolutely nuts. But then,
but you never know.
Well, you never. This is the thing, you never know. And I genuinely, I'm not just saying this because I'm English, but I genuinely think that England on their day could do it. Like they absolutely could. It's less likely, granted, but they absolutely could. But it really is just impossible to call. So many different scenarios that could play out.
Yeah, I think it really depends on who finishes in the pool stages at the top, because I think that matchup on the crossover is going to be really critical, and which team they face on that. I think South Africa, unfortunately, are going to miss out just because Jamaica and New Zealand are so strong and they would have to topple one of them. But it's not out of the question. You never know. South Africa, I don't think have played Jamaica that recently. Obviously at the World Cup 4 years ago, it was a completely different story with South Africa beating Jamaica. So it's impossible to say. But yeah, I think if you were like holding me down and saying you have to give a prediction, otherwise you're like that, you're going to die, I would probably say that it's going to be I'd probably say Jamaica, New Zealand, Australia.
Really?
I don't know. I've got this feeling, but my predictions are always wrong. So you can basically guarantee that what I predicted will not happen. So I think it's really tough to know, but it could be any combination, I think, of those four and any iteration, really. So finally then, Pam, one player that you're most excited to watch?
From any team?
Oh, I'm going to go with a Rose. I'm going to go with Ellie Cardwell, because I just think she has been awesome this season and last. I think she's definitely just been on this upward trajectory, and I just want to see her do the business in a red dress, and I think she can.
Yeah. And how about you, Luce?
Oh man, I'm like so indecisive. I actually don't know if I could pick one person. I mean, Loazi for me was an absolute standout at Com Games. I'm obsessed with her, but I'm actually really keen to see. Oh, how can I decide? I'm going to go for Maddie Gordon, because I was a real big advocate that she should be in the squad. And I know she was sort of on the fringe of maybe not being selected, but I think she is a real point of difference and such a spark in the midcourt, and actually able to play all three midcourt positions to a very high standard, which not all middies can do, as we've seen some experiments maybe haven't worked out quite as well, but she actually can. So I'm going to go Maddie Gordon.
Yeah. No, I respect that, Luce. I think there's a lot, for me personally, there's a lot of very exciting players. Obviously, Qtr is up there. I think Hannah Layton for Scotland could be a really exciting prospect. But, who should I go for? Okay. Let me think. I'm going to go for Talliard. South Africa.
Oh, I was going to say her as well.
Yeah, I think I've just got this feeling, but obviously all my predictions are wrong. So sorry, Talliard. But I think with it being in South Africa, I think she could be, and also she's a relative unknown, which is sometimes really good to have as a useful little thing in your back pocket to whip out. So yeah, very, very exciting stuff. Well, Pam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know we've kept you a bit longer than we hoped to, but there's always so much to discuss around this, and it's such a pleasure to chat to you. And thanks again. So we'll see you in Cape Town.
We'll see you
in Cape Town, baby. Oh yeah, see you at the airport first.
Drinks at the airport. Take care, Pam.
You too. Thank you, ladies. What fun.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Qtr Time podcast. We are bringing you daily coverage from the Netball World Cup with new episodes, live podcasts, and social media content. So keep your eye on our social media channels for all of the information you need, including our content schedule.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media at Qtr Time Pod for the latest netball updates. Do get involved in the conversation online by letting us know what you think of all the matches throughout the World Cup and which players you got your eye on. We love hearing from you all, so please do get in touch. Also, do check out Netball Scoop's preview of all the teams if you'd like to find out even more about them before the competition begins. We'll add a link in our show notes.
Yeah, there's some really interesting articles on their site. And finally, we'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate and review, as it really does help other people to find the podcast. If you enjoy listening to the pod, please do let us know. And as we said, spread the word with your netball pals so that even more people can get involved. And last but not least, do not forget to take advantage of our exclusive 15% discount with Lovell Netball by entering the code NETPOD15 at the checkout at lovellnetball.co.uk. Right, take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.